So, what does one do as a journalist when the current Prime Minister of Canada doesn't really sit down for interviews unless it's the CBC? Well, one journalist went and found Justin Trudeau on yet another one of his vacations in Tofino. And on a beach, the two had an interesting conversation. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Lorrie Goldstein. Lorrie, I'm referring in this instance to the editor-in-chief of the Countersignal, Keean Bexte, found Trudeau on a beach in Tofino. Keean has gone through a long process explaining how this all unfolded and how it happened. There's some criticism of him bugging the prime minister on vacation. Trudeau seems to be on vacation all the time. But that said, interesting sort of commentary coming from Trudeau. Could have had his security completely shut it down. He didn't, and to his credit, allowed Keean to ask some very pointed questions. To which one of those answers from Trudeau was that he works harder than most Canadians. What's your take on this whole interaction?
Yeah, the first thing I would give some credit to the prime minister in that he didn't arrange to have one of his bodyguards slam dunk the guy out of his way, which was what happened to David Menzies from the Rebel when he was trying to interview Freeland. So, props for that. I do think politicians do deserve time for family with their, on look, whatever we think of this prime minister or any other prime minister, it's a hard job. I agree. But that clip, that part of the clip where he goes on at length about how basically Canadians don't know how hard I work. I work harder than most of you. That to me is he's just off his game. Mm-hmm. No, that's not the right response, right? The right response is, look, and he did get there eventually, right? I'm entitled to time with my children. And of course, I mean, exactly. There's been a divorce in the family. I'm sure it's hard on the whole family, including the children. I don't begrudge the prime minister having time with his family. I would hope that there is a fair dispensation of the costs. We can't put the prime minister on a discount flight. He has to fly, with certain security. But the government pays an appropriate share of those costs. I get all that. But this thing about working harder than others, it's tone deaf, and it's particularly when the major issues facing Canadians, pollsters say over and over again, are affordability, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, it was more to me an inner look at what's inside Trudeau's head, because it sounds like he feels like an aggrieved person, right? And to me, it would be, look, I get your job is hard, but you knew the job was hard when you took it, and to use that defense, I thought it was just, I'm not going to criticize him for going on vacation. We've had controversy in the past about we weren't told where he was, and then they misled us in the PMO, blah, 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 and who paid exactly what. I get all that. But on this one in particular, look, I get it. It's summer. He wants some time with his family. But I think he is seriously considering about whether he should leave, because put it in with, you remember the other thing he said was that quitting, I think about quitting every day.
That's right.
I think it would be wise if he was thinking about that every day.
Well, speaking of which, Brian, it was a 10-minute interview. And again, it's good the prime minister didn't have his RCMP detail tackle the journalist and whatnot. That would have been terrible. Regardless of how you feel about the confrontation, Keean Bexte managed to get in a few other questions to the prime minister that frankly are on all of our minds as journalists. Why haven't you met with your caucus since that disastrous turnout in the Toronto St. Paul's by-election? There's been more and more calls for Trudeau to step down or step aside. Some of those are getting more vocal and more public. Is he planning on firing Chrystia Freeland? There's a whole host of questions that Trudeau's not answering. Bexte managed to get a few of those to him. So I'm wondering your take on the whole situation as it unfolded.
So this is not how I would handle things. I'm, big believer that everybody gets time out. Any politician worth their salt, regardless of party, their hours, you would not want to keep them. You've been around politics, Adrienne. You've worked for politicians. You know what they're like. Anybody that's going to get reelected is working nonstop. Um, I don't think that always applies to Trudeau based on statements that he's made and the number of vacations he takes. But he deserves his time off, and I don't believe in interrupting that. At a certain point, we all say, "Okay, tools down." But kudos to Bexte for getting the interview and for Trudeau in how he handled it. He realized that at a certain point on that beach, after the security detail showed up, that this could look really bad. And he walked around the security detail and he grabbed Bexte and he says, "Come on, walk with me." And they went for a walk along the beach answering the questions. It wasn't a warm and fuzzy interview. Now, I have not watched the full thing. I plan on doing that when I've got time. I want to see everything that went on in it. But what I've seen so far, Bexte asked good questions. Trudeau gave answers, whether you believe them or not. He continues to say he's going to run in the next election. I keep saying that's where he's at. Others say he's going to go. We call him Warren Kinsella, but Kinsella's wrong, and Trudeau just said he's sticking around. So, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And I have seen comments from Bexte and those associated with them. A woman named that goes by Cat Canada on X, saying that they're getting claims that this was all staged. Trust me, this was not staged with Trudeau's team or with Trudeau. They literally just went to the beach and found him.
That's
because
right.
where do you look for the Prime Minister of Canada when he's on vacation? On the beach. I was hoping for a walk in the sand that would lead to him to resign, but based on his own words there, that's not happening anytime soon.
Well, you can see the entire interview on the Counter Signal and support their. If you want to support their work, you can see the whole thing. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to the TorontoSun.com. You can find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.